Hey, franchising didn't fall apart in 2025, but some illusions did. Today, I'm going to break down what really happened this year, the truths that we learned, the blind spots that were uncovered, and the moves that founders should be making for 2026. You're going to want to hear this.
This is the Franchise Pitfalls and Profit Show. Each week, we bring you the challenges and triumphs of being in the franchise development and consulting business. The things you need to make money faster. And now your host, one of the most successful franchise developers in North America, Don Schin.
Hey, welcome back to Franchise Pitfalls and Profits. I'm Don Schin, and today we're going to dive into one of my favorite episodes that I create each and every year, and that's a look at the state of franchising, so to speak. I like to do a couple of different things here at the end of the year, and so I hope you enjoy these. I like to look back, but I like to share what we've seen. It's not going to be those kind of surface level headlines. It's not going to be press release kind of optimism. It's also not going to be that fear-based noise that we get a lot of from time to time as well. But I'm going to talk about what actually happened inside sales pipelines, founders' decisions, franchisee performance, onboarding things, operations challenges, all the places that tell the real story. Because here's the truth. 2025 didn't break the franchise world. It did expose what was already weak, and it validated what was truly strong. The founders who understand the difference, they're the ones who will separate themselves next year. So let's get into it. Let's see what the year revealed. Let's look at what smart leaders are doing, and let's look at the information right now. First thing is, if I had to summarize the year in one sentence, it'd be something like 2025 revealed the gaps that founders didn't know they had. Not because they're failing, but because these gaps were hidden. 2025 forced them into the light, under the spotlight. And here are the three biggest exposures that I saw. First one is that pipeline volume covered up pipeline weakness. For a few years, there was high lead flow, and it gave a lot of brands kind of a false sense of security. But I think in 2025, when that volume kind of normalized, I think founders suddenly saw an overdependence on brokers. Yes, I am a broker, but an overdependence on brokers, follow-up systems that weren't really following up. They really weren't systems. Messaging that wasn't landing at the lap of their target candidates. They saw a buyer's journey that didn't match buyers' philosophy and buyers' mind frames and mindsets. And we saw that sales processes were inconsistent across reps. When leads dropped even modestly, these flaws became very, very obvious, very, very visible. A second one is that founders discovered that their middle 50 or 60% of their franchise brand, the franchise system, their franchisees, is the real growth engine, or at least by uncovering this fact, they're going to be working on that in 2026. This is the one that really surprised a lot of people. It's also my newest insight, something that became crystal clear after decades of watching franchisee performance and patterns repeat year after year. But this new insight became very, very clear to me this year. You see that your top 20% are rock stars. They're incredible. Honestly, I don't care what your brand is. They'd be good in any single brand that they own. The bottom group gets the attention because they're struggling. So the bottom, say 20% or so, are getting a lot of attention. Honestly, they're also probably the folks that are complaining a lot. They're often the folks that are, pointing fingers, not taking responsibility, um, and they're struggling. But this middle group, what I'm calling the middle 50 or 60%, that's where the franchise value is really created or lost. And I think 2025 exposed just how under-supported this middle group is in many brands. More about that in a couple of minutes. But the third thing I want to talk about here is early franchisees were showing cracks earlier. This year, new franchisees needed more around leadership guidance, clarity of their purpose, the brand purpose. They needed more accountability. I often talked about franchisor training. New franchise partner training is kind of like the baby bird scenario, where mom and dad feed it for a period of time and then just boom, knock it out of the nest. And they hope that the little bird flies. Typically the bird either splats or gets those wings going. But there's no accountability after mom and dad are tired of this big thing growing in the nest. So franchisees needed more accountability, and they really needed more coaching on business fundamentals. They did not need coaching and support as much on the system, how to operate the system. They needed more help on how to run a business. And emerging brands don't have a lot of resources to do this. And they're so laser focused on, do these people understand our system? And they teach them the operations, but they're just not paying attention to how to run a business. They don't have the right people. The people that are there to teach the systems and support the systems are not the right ones to teach them how to run a business. So they're very, very conscious of their costs here. And the emerging brands just can't offer what's really, really become evident that's needed. Flip side, brands who invested early in the right type of support, they saw stronger ramp ups, faster break evens, and overall, they saw a healthier franchisee. So that was the three key things that I feel were exposed in 2025. Now, across the 25 years, I've seen a lot of change, and I've seen things stay the same in a lot of regards. So let's talk about that. If I had to pull out a handful of lessons that shape healthy franchise in any market in any cycle, these are the 5 that I've seen consistently. One of them gained new clarity in 2025, and I'll talk about that in just a second. So the first one I wanted to talk about is that growth is predictable when expectations are clear. Brands that define what success actually looks like for their franchisees, financially, operationally, and behaviorally, they grow more consistent. So growth is predictable when the ZORs make the expectations clear. A second thing is that sales improve when support improves. That might seem obvious, but I thought that was worth mentioning. When your franchisees are confident and performing, your sales stories become stronger without any really increases to your recruitment or your marketing or your lead generation budgets. A third thing is that you can't outsource leadership. In other words, founders who tried to hand off culture or communications or clarity, they learned quickly that the system follows the leader's example. System follows the leader's example. So if you're an emerging brand founder and leader, you need to take that responsibility. A fourth thing is that problems at 10 units become a disaster if a brand is able to get to 50 units. Whatever was unresolved gets amplified. So 2025 made it painfully visible of some of the areas of growth that needed to be, or during growth that needed to be dealt with. And then the fifth lesson is that this middle or 50, 60 percent of a brand is the difference between a brand stalling or plateauing, if you want to say it that way, and a brand that's really scaling. This is the insight that sharpened most clearly this year for me. These aren't the stars or the strugglers. This group are quietly capable operators. They carry your brand forward if they receive the right coaching and clarity and accountability. When this group improves, even modestly, the system becomes healthier, more profitable, more sellable, if you want to sell it to private equity, and it becomes far more stable. And this is going to be the difference maker in 2026. But you've got to get the right support, coaching, clarity, and accountability. What we're talking about in 2026, we all know about the bell curve. We want to move your bell curve higher. We want to move it all over by focusing on this middle grouping. All right. So let's talk about the gaps that were exposed. And in this year, founders either fixed them or they fell further behind. And it's going to be the same thing in 2026. They need to get these things right, or they're just going to continue to lag, stall, maybe even shrink. So here's what I think most strategic founders are already doing. If you're not doing these things, you need to jump on board and recognize their importance. First one is strengthening internal clarity before chasing more leads, before more recruitment. They're tightening up their messaging. They're improving their discovery process. They're making their stories clearer. They're making their stories more attractive, more compelling. Second one is rebuilding the onboarding into a 90-day transformation instead of a checklist. Brands are realizing that onboarding is not about information. It's about their new franchise partner's identity. It's about their confidence, and it's about a rhythm and momentum early on. So let's rebuild those onboarding processes so that 90-day period, that initial 90-day period, is much stronger. The third thing is that investing early and smartly in your franchisees' performance coaching. It's not more calls. It's not more operations manuals. It's real coaching on running businesses. It's real development. It's real leadership growth. People come with gaps, and this is what's missing. You've recruited the right person. You just have to help them fill the gaps. And if you do that early and you do that well, you're going to have better franchise partner startups and overall healthier franchisees and overall a healthier brand. And then eventually this middle 50 to 60% of your network becomes a priority and not an afterthought. You need to also invest there because that's the greatest opportunity in 2026. A fourth thing is simplifying what you track and elevate what is being measured. 2026 ready founders stop looking at vanity numbers and they really start looking at owner engagement, owner behaviors, leading indicators of performance, and they look at skills before they're looking at results. Do we have the right skill sets for our people? And when we bring them in, do we have to develop any of those skill sets? And then the fifth one that I mentioned, or that I want to mention for 2026, and that is repositioning the brand, repositioning themselves as guides and not the savior of these people's future. This is pretty big. Founders who move from, I need to solve every problem of all of my people, to something like, I need to build a system that empowers them to solve their own problems, gives them and builds their skill sets to solve their own problems. These are going to be the founders who scale and scale well in 2026. So, what are the real takeaways? When you strip away all the noise and all the chaos and all the stuff that's out there, I think these are the basic truths of 2025. 2025 didn't create any new problems. I think it revealed problems that were already there. And while some founders were kind of surprised by that, the smart ones were grateful because they stepped up to address what has now become clear. Even when it was uncomfortable, it is the foundation of transformation, is now understanding better and taking responsibility and doing something about it. So if you can see the gaps, you can fill the gaps, you can fix those problems. And I think 2026 is going to reward the founders who embrace a fill the gaps or fix the gaps mindset. All right, before we wrap up, I want to share with you what's a great Christmas gift. But I want to transition to next week's episode, the last one of 2025. So your invitation is to keep listening through this year-end series. I am wrapping up my 25th year anniversary. It was a great year, great insights, great personal and professional development. So again, I'm going to be bringing you the summation of the 25th year anniversary and 2025. So next week, we're going to talk about scaling in 2026. I'm going to provide a founder's guide to building a model that actually grows. If today's episode was about exposing the gaps, next week's about rebuilding. And I want you to be able to rebuild with clarity. I want you to rebuild with confidence. And I want you to get momentum quickly in the new year. So if you're a founder who wants to enter 2026 with a sharper system, a healthier overall franchise network, which is going to start really with that middle 50%. If you are a founder with the right priorities in place, you do not want to miss this episode. Make sure you subscribe. Give me your comments on how we're doing. Share the episodes with your teams, your colleagues. Repost it for me. But join me in December 29th, the last episode of the year, as we build the foundation for you to have your strongest year ever. And again, the Can You Relate book, which is my gift to you from the standpoint of the successful years that I've had in life and business, and why, and how you can have them too. It's a great read for you. It's a great gift for anybody that you care about. So come and see me next week.